I wanted to turn now to the next part of the challenge, because the bottom line to all of this, what's happening with climate, what's happening, is do we eat? Who eats? How fair is our food? Will our food reach the right people? Will we eat nutritiously? Will we eat well? And will we waste the food along the way? I want to show you a video here. This is one of our StoryFest finalists. It's produced by Anthony Brunner. Tony, you in the crowd? There's Tony right there. An American university student, right? Looking at the issue of food and food waste. What's the piece called?
The piece is called
Food Not Bombs.
Combating Waste by Feeding the Planet.
Combating Waste by Feeding the Planet. Take a look.
Food waste is a tremendously embarrassing environmental issue in the United States. Totally ignoring household food waste, you know, where you say, I don't want this anymore, and you throw it away. Let's ignore that. Let's just talk about industry. Every day, not every week, not every month, every day, we're throwing away 150 million pounds of food. It's just going in the trash. It's gone. We're not talking about a situation where this food is rotting or whatever. This is food that is perfectly edible, has been grown at whatever environmental cost that is, talking fertilizer usage, watering maybe in places that requires a lot of irrigation, and then shipping it, whatever fuel cost is associated with that, and then packaging it, whatever cost is associated with that. And this adds up really quickly. And then it gets here, and then we don't use it.
All right, Tony, bravo. Dennis Dimmick, you back there still? Dennis, what'd you think of the piece? Right, we got a mic coming to you. How'd he do? There's a mic right by you there, Dennis. What do you think worked in the piece?
Well, it was personal, and I liked it a lot.
Personal and liked it a lot. And the pictures work, the video worked.
Absolutely.
All right. So Tony, nice job. All right. Food waste. Who eats? Our next guest is a remarkable person, and he's been a champion in the area of food security for years. A little piece of Trivial Pursuit. Who knows who George McGovern was? Students. Students. Oh, God, this is incredible. All right. Students. Trivial Pursuit. What year did George McGovern run for president? Not one hand. Okay, non-students can enter the game. What year did George McGovern run for president? 1972. Who did he run against?
Nixon.
Who won?
Nixon.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Jim McGovern is no relation to George McGovern. But he worked for him, and he was inspired by him, and he helped found the House Caucus on Hunger. And he champions global food security. He's going to talk to you and engage students in a panel. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Jim McGovern.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you so much for coming here.
Happy to be
you
here.
Took a break from voting?
I'd rather be here than there.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me, and I'm thrilled to be at this Feeding the Planet Summit, and it's really inspiring to me to see so many young people here, because it gives me hope that you're going to straighten out this world that's so screwed up, and so I'm grateful to be before this audience. Look, I've been to lots of summits, I've been to lots of lectures, I've read lots of books and white papers and position papers on how we end hunger here in the United States and around the world. And the one thing that I've concluded is we know how to end hunger. It's not that hard. I don't know how to end all wars. I wish I did. I'll keep on trying to work on that. But we all know how to end hunger. We can eliminate it in the United States and around the world. I will submit to you that hunger is a political condition, that we know what to do, we have the resources, we have the infrastructure, we have everything we need to eliminate this scourge from the planet, but we don't have the political will. When it comes to going to war, we have the political will. I mean, we even go into deficit spending to fight wars that we want to get involved with. But when it comes to a war on hunger, the world just doesn't seem to be able to put it all together, and it is incredibly frustrating to me. You know, if we ask all the countries of the world maybe to take, let's put all the great military powers of the world, maybe to take 5% of their military budget and put it into a fund to help support sustainable agriculture in countries that need it, to help provide more food to people who need it, we could eliminate hunger. So this isn't that big of a deal. The problem I've found when I speak about this issue, and I give a speech on this every week on the House floor, is that people, I don't think, feel this issue the way they should. You know, we're really good at throwing out statistics. You know, 48 million people in the United States are hungry, 17 million are kids. We talk about, you know, a little less than 1 billion on the planet that are hungry. And I think when we throw these numbers and statistics out, people's eyes kind of glaze over, because I think we're losing the human ability to feel what those statistics mean. And one of the things that I have learned as a way to kind of build support in the Congress and amongst constituencies that are a little skeptical is just tell stories. You talk about real people. You know, I do a hunger walk in my district every year, and we pass this place called the Amherst Survival Center. It's a place that deals with people who are hungry, who need food, who need medical attention, who need services to be able to find a place to stay because they're homeless. And when I walk by there during these hunger walks, every year, all the clients write their stories on paper plates and hand them to me. And I go on the House floor and I read from those paper plates so that my fellow members of Congress know what it's like to be on SNAP, know what it's like to not have enough food to feed your hungry child, to know what it's like to be working in this country and still have not enough money and resources to be able to put food on the table. And they're real stories and real people. And it begins to move some of these members of Congress. Some of them, by the way, who have never been to a food bank, you know, who have never talked to a hungry person. I have news for you, and this will come as a shock, but intelligence is not a prerequisite for serving in Congress. You need to educate your members of Congress on this issue. We have big debates over whether to cut SNAP. We're having another one of those debates. And what frustrates me is that the narrative does not reflect the reality. The way people describe those who are struggling in poverty is demeaning, and it is incorrect. It is hard work to be poor in this country, and sometimes people need a little bit of help. I'm somebody who believes that food ought to be a right for every single person on this planet. Now, when I first, back in 2007 during the Farm Bill, I was trying to get the reimbursement up a little bit. And I was asking people on the Ag Committee, like, what is the average food stamp benefit? And nobody seemed to know. And that was the committee that oversees the program. And I was told, enough, adequate, oh, it's good. Well, it was about $3 a day back then. So I lived on a food stamp diet with a few of my colleagues for a week, a little exercise just to remind people how stingy this benefit is, and that people who are on this benefit end up having to go to food banks to be able to supplement this benefit, and that a lot of the people on this benefit work for a living. And it helped us, I think, increase the food stamp budget during that year. We have since gone in the wrong direction. The same thing on global hunger. You know, I'm the author of the McGovern-Dole International Food for Education program, named after George McGovern. As Frank said, not related. People say they're big supporters of my father, and I says, thank you. He owns a liquor store in Massachusetts. Keep on supporting him. And Bob Dole. And basically, the premise of this, and you're going to hear from Dan Glickman a little later, and he was one of the big supporters of this, is that every child in the world deserves at least one nutritious meal a day in a school setting. And it's this great program. And it's supporting millions of kids are getting fed, and they're getting sent to school. More girls are going to school because in some places in the world, education for girls is not valued. But when you introduce a meal, all of a sudden girls are going to school. And it's this great program. It supports good nutrition, and it supports universal education. And when you think about it, for some of these countries that are struggling, you know, having a literate population is incredibly important, just as it is to make sure everybody in that country gets fed. But sometimes it's a tough sell to members of Congress, like, why are we investing in programs overseas? What does it do? And I always tell the story about going to visit a McGovern Dole program in a place called Soacha in Colombia. It's outside of Bogota, a displaced persons community, the worst poverty I think I've ever seen. People living on an area that is all rock. You don't even see a weed growing, and living in the worst conditions. And then there's this tent, and under this tent are hundreds and hundreds of kids going to school. And they're going to school because they're being fed. And I was there, shortly after the McGovern Dole program got up and running. And I met with, and I had the U.S. ambassador with us. And this young mother came up to me, and she said, I want you to know that I'm grateful to the people of the United States for this program. She says, because in this slum, in this displaced persons community, every day one of the armed actors comes through here. And one day it's the left-wing FARC, and then another day it's the right-wing paramilitaries or the military. And they asked me, the mother of an 8-year-old boy, to give them my son, to have him become an armed actor in the conflict in Colombia. And if I do that, they guarantee me that he'll be fed every day, which is something I can't do. But because of this program, I don't have to make that decision. My son is not only being fed, he's being taught how to write and how to read, and he's gonna grow up and get out of this slum, and maybe he'll be the leader of this country. But the point that I wanted the ambassador to understand is that in addition to meeting a need of making sure somebody who's hungry gets enough to eat, I always tell you, ending hunger is in our national security interest. That mother will never, ever, ever do anything against the United States because we helped her and we helped her son. And that is, that is the power of this whole kind of campaign to end hunger. So let me just close with this. We need you to knock on the doors of your elected officials at the local, state, and federal level and knock some sense into their heads that this is a priority. If this is a priority, we will tackle this issue. This has to move up the priority list, and I think with conferences like this today, I have confidence that it will. So thank you so much for all being here today.